you get about 4 billion new cells every day in your body. Every day your body disassembles 4 billion old cells, takes the usable parts, components, compounds, and reassembles 4 billion new cells. This is part of your daily maintenance, part of like drinking and sleeping and eating. 4 billion cells are disassembled, 4 billion new cells are reassembled. If you do the math on that, it averages a new body for you every 6 months. Your bones take 7 years to replace themselves, your blood takes 2 or 3 weeks to replace itself. But if you average out number of cells in your body, number of cells per day, your eyeballs, liver, kidneys, everything is disassembled and reassembled as a constant process. This is how biological systems work, as I understand it. If you've got a car and your muffler busts out, the car is designed to have the muffler taken out and have a new one put in. That's a machine. Living systems are not designed to have pieces taken out and new pieces put in. Living systems are designed to be constantly rebuilt. This is, I would say, a fact of life, if I may be so presumptuous. This gets really exciting when we're talking about human health. As far as I'm concerned, the implications of this for human health at large are very exciting. Inside of every cell is, at the center is what we call the nucleus. Inside of every nucleus is the DNA, right? People know about this? It's this basic biology. When the Human Genome Project was being done, the Human Genome Project was basically the job of trying to map the human DNA. During the 90s, I think they completed it around 2000. In the process of mapping the human DNA, that which is at the center of every cell, they mapped not only the DNA itself, but the enzymes that are used to replicate DNA. And this is where going back to mechanics is maybe a good metaphor. When you're taking off your old muffler, you might need a half-inch wrench. Or if you're fixing your you're taking your brake pads off, you might need a 5/16, or who knows what the size wrenches are. Or you're screwing something in with a Phillips head screwdriver, or you're taking something out with an Allen wrench. We know about tools that have different sizes and shapes, right? Because we use them in our lives. And it seems that the metaphor for enzymes, the functional how enzymes work, seems to be very similar to this. So they say the enzyme is the key that closes the lock or opens the lock. Maybe some people have heard this metaphor. When you're building, say, protein is they say a bunch of amino acids stuck together, right? So the job of sticking the proteins together, combining this one to this one, involves this enzyme. So the enzymes are what's used to put things together, to build carbohydrate out of sugar, to build proteins out of amino acids, to build lipids. To build these basic biochemical compounds are used these little screwdrivers and sockets. They're called enzymes. And when you digest your food, you eat a hamburger, your body doesn't use that protein, your body uses the amino acids. So that protein has to be broken down, digested by these enzymes. So the 5/16 tightens the nut on or loosens the nut off. That's what enzymes are. And so the process of the Human Genome Project mapped all the enzymes necessary to replicate human DNA. All of the enzymes, right? DNA strand 4 billion times a day, center of your cell. And what makes an enzyme unique is its size and shape. So we understand about Phillips heads or sockets, whatever they are. They've all got their unique size and shape. What makes an enzyme unique is the element at its core, because every element, copper or zinc or manganese or boron or cobalt, calcium, has a unique size, like it's 1.5 angstroms across. An angstrom is a unit of measure. You can say copper is 1.5 angstroms across. And when copper bonds, it bonds in a tetrahedral geometry, or an octahedral geometry, or a dodecahedral geometry, right? 4-sided or 8-sided or 12-sided, doesn't matter. But different elements have different sizes and different shapes. And that size and shape at the center of the enzyme is what makes it able to put this together and take it apart, or put that together and take it apart. That was very complicated, but I think everybody followed me. See some people paying close attention. Whoa, slow down! All right, so they mapped all the enzymes necessary to replicate human DNA. Once they've got all the enzymes, they can identify all the elements at the core of those enzymes. Everybody following me here? To replicate one strand of human DNA requires 56 different elements. N, P, and K are 3 elements. Copper, manganese, boron, cobalt, molybdenum, selenium, chromium, vanadium. Like, how many elements can you name? 56 elements are required to replicate every strand of your DNA. That's basic maintenance. That's not your hormonal system, that's not your glandular system, that's not your, all these other systems, right? So we need this spectrum of elements in our bodies to work. And when we don't have those elements in our bodies, they don't work. So what happens if you don't have chromium? If you don't have chromium when that DNA is being replicated, you don't have the chromium-based enzyme. You don't have the chromium-based enzyme, those pieces of DNA that are put together by the chromium-based enzyme don't get put together. They're hanging loose, right? That's what happens, is they're left hanging loose. You know what they call that? Everybody?
DNA?
A genetic marker. A genetic marker. Anybody heard of a genetic marker for colon cancer, for heart disease? In this case, the chromium is correlated with the genetic markers for diabetes. So, all of our degenerative diseases, which we have genetic markers for, we actually can look at the science and see the correlations between the mineral deficiencies and the enzymes not being there, and the breaks in the DNA, and the susceptibility to disease. So if you get 4 billion new cells every day, and you get a new body every 6 months, and you start to eat food that has the elements in it that your bodies need, what's going to happen? Your DNA is going to fix itself. Your body's going to heal itself. Right? Anybody heard of Hippocrates? The Hippocratic Oath? The Hippocratic Oath is what all doctors swear when they graduate from doctor school, whatever it's called.
Do no harm. Do no harm.
First, do no harm. Then, anybody?
Good.
Let food be thy medicine. And finally, never let me ever be conned into prescribing a poison. That's it. That's the Hippocratic Oath. 1, 2, and 3. A long time ago, they figured out that food could heal you, but that was with the assumption that food had nutrition in it. Right? If you look at the USDA data on average nutrient levels in crops since the 30s when they started measuring it, we've been plateauing for the past 35 years, but it was a big drop before that. Right? 50% decrease or 500% decrease, whatever the nutrient is, whatever the food is on average, the baseline for what our food has in it now is crap. And there's a really interesting way that we can discern that. Anybody know how you can discern that?
Plant health.
We're animals. We're hardwired with a sophisticated nutrient monitoring system that can discern what's good for us and what's not. So if a carrot tastes bitter or bland, that's your animal instinct telling you it's not good for you. If it was some local organic farmer that grew it, and you want to believe that's a good farmer, you can convince yourself of a lot of things, but your tongue's not going to lie to you. So from my perspective, it has nothing to do with whether you're local, or you're organic, or you're conventional, or you're monoculture, or you're polyculture, or you're permaculture, or whatever you are. What matters is actually the quality of the food. The correlation on your health is direct.